I can't begin to describe my concern after reading that first entry. He seemed sober. His handwriting was neat and straight, but his words felt like those of a man beginning to lose his grip on reality. I feel bad for letting him live alone for so long, not even pushing that hard for him to get a dog or a cat, or even a goldfish, although I did float the idea a few times over the years during our Friday night phone calls. The painting itself does have a sort of charm to it, although as I said before, I've never been particularly interested in artwork, so I can't presume to be a good judge of whether or not it's actually good. I've been to my fair share of fairs and carnivals over the years, and I have to agree that it does seem to capture that childlike wonder one feels when staring up at a Ferris wheel with a carton of popcorn in one hand and a soda in the other. How depressed must he have been, though, to feel such joy over a change as simple as a painting in his room without even questioning how it got there? The pit in my stomach knew the answer to the question, even though my mind resisted to put it into words. The next few entries were shorter than the first, and as they went on, his writing became messier, more like he was in a hurry to put the words down on paper than alcohol-induced illegibility. May 6th. I haven't felt like this since I got an Atari for my birthday when I was a kid. As soon as I leave for work, I find myself counting the hours until I can be back home again. It's hard to explain, but the whole apartment feels different now. There's a new, ethereal joy hanging in the air the moment you walk through the door, and I can't help but feel that it all comes from that painting, like it's radiating off it somehow. I just want to be near it, you know? I used to fall asleep to the television most nights, in my recliner in the front room, but since this painting re-entered my life, I found that I can fall asleep with ease in my bed after spending a little time looking at the hidden treasures in the painting. Last night, I found a little girl I don't think I noticed before. She's wearing a yellow dress, and she's walking with a puppy on a leash beside her. Looking at her little face on the canvas made me so happy, I could just melt. I fell right to sleep. May 10th. Instead of watching movies this weekend, I watched the painting. I was so captivated I found myself sobering up on Saturday night. The peace and quiet it brings to the room is better than the peace and quiet I found at the bottom of a bottle, and if I'm just quiet enough, I can almost hear the carnival music playing. May 13th. Instead of eating in front of the television, I've started taking my dinner to my bedroom, and it's so much better. I can sit at the foot of my bed, eating my dinner, with the carnival right in front of me, and if I close my eyes, I can imagine the chicken and broccoli is actually peanuts and pretzels. If I focus on it hard enough, I can almost taste them too. May 16th. Now, I know this is silly, but this painting has made me feel like such a kid again that I started to imagine Bobby again, and boy do we have fun. He's easy to imagine because he's right there at the top of the Ferris wheel, sitting there in his blue pajamas, smiling up at me. All I have to do is close my eyes and think of the peanuts and pretzels and music, and then it's almost like he climbs down from the Ferris wheel and right out of the painting to sit next to me. It's so good to see Bobby again. May 17th. Bobby taught me how to best imagine the cotton candy and popcorn and everything else good to eat at the carnival. He taught me so well that I can taste it perfectly without even having to close my eyes. It tastes so good, I don't want to eat anything else now. May 19th. I asked Bobby if he could start coming to work with me because I missed him and his carnival when I was at work. He doesn't really understand why I have to leave so much. He's just a kid after all. And he said he'd come with me. He said I had to imagine him the whole time though. He couldn't just pop in when I wanted him to, because he had to come out of the painting and he didn't know the way to the lumberyard. He's never been in a car before, and he had so much fun seeing all the trees and houses whip by as we passed. I told him I was happy to bring him along whenever he likes, and he told me he wanted to come with me every day if he could. I told him that was just fine. May 21st. Something happened today while I was driving home from work. I was listening to the radio, and a song came on that Bobby didn't like, so he changed the station. He can do that sometimes. I changed it back because I liked the song, and he didn't even ask to change it. We got into a fight, and I wasn't paying attention to the road. Oh God. I didn't even see her crossing the street. She wasn't at a crosswalk or anything. She was just not there one moment, and there the next. She must have seen that I wasn't stopping, because I think she tripped while trying to get away And instead of rolling up the hood and onto the windshield, the car went right over her. Nobody else was there, and I don't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do, but Bobby did. He told me to look away because he didn't want to scare me, so I did. The sound I heard after that, God, I can't describe it. It was wet and slapping, like meat being dropped on a counter, but also like a crunching and a smacking, but not quite that either. It was only a few minutes, but when Bobby climbed back into the passenger seat, it was like nothing had happened. No blood on the road, no hair in the tyre tread, nothing. It was like I'd imagined it all, just like I'd been imagining the popcorn and candy and even Bobby, but the fear was real. Still is. I can't keep myself from seeing her face whenever I close my eyes, her mouth gaping in a scream that was smashed down between rubber and asphalt. May 22nd. I saw her on the news. Bobby was so close to convincing me I'd imagined it all up, but I saw her. Her name was Samantha Deertails, and her family said she went jogging yesterday and hadn't seen her and were looking for any information about what happened to her. I picked up the phone to call her, but Bobby stopped me. He told me I'd go to jail, and I told him that maybe that's exactly what I deserved. Then he told me he couldn't come with me. He said I couldn't take the painting with me to jail, not even a picture of it, and when I got out, if I got out, he and the painting would be long gone, and I'd never see them again. I put the phone down. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. I don't want a life without that painting or Bobby. May 23rd. I can't taste the carnival food anymore. I don't know why, but every time I try, it just tastes rancid and sour on my tongue. Bobby's starting to change too. He isn't there as much as he was yesterday, and I can't hear him as well when he talks, like someone's turned the volume down, but just for him. I told him I was scared, and he told me he couldn't stay anymore. He said he wasn't supposed to anyway, but he liked me and so he did. But he said he had to go back, just like before, but this time, if I wanted, I could go too. I didn't even have to think about it. I told him yes, and he told me how to do it. If you're reading this, know that I am happy now. My mouth was dry when I finally put the journal down, and I found myself a bit nervous to look at the painting after having read everything my father had written. I called the police and filed a missing persons report. They said they would send someone down shortly, and asked if I could go with the officer afterwards to the station to make an official statement. I told them I would. Next, I pulled up the local news and found that my father's journal had been right about at least one thing. Samantha Deertails had gone missing on May 21st, and her family was offering a reward for anyone with information leading to the discovery of her whereabouts. I'll give the cop my father's journal and tell him about the entry on the 21st, although I'm not sure how seriously that would be taken as a confession, considering that there was no damage to his Subaru parked in the lot. I peeked out of the window and looked. The last thing I did, before I could muster up the courage to examine the painting in the bedroom, was make a phone call to Sunnyside Retirement Community, where my grandmother lived. She's almost 90 now, but still sharp for her age. I didn't tell her about my father. Not yet. I needed to be there in person for that, but I did ask about the carnival painting. "We never had a painting of a carnival," she said. "Not that I remember, at least. But I do remember Paul and his brother staring at the wall in the basement like it was a TV set. Strangest game I'd ever seen them play, but damn it if they didn't spend hours playing it. Damned kids don't make a lick of sense sometimes." I knitted my brow. His brother? I thought he was an only child. "Oh yes, he was for most of his life," my grandmother said. "His little brother Robert went missing when he was 7. Never found the body or nothing. Officers said he probably drowned in the river the kids played by, but that never quite sat right with me or his father. If you talk to Paul, though, don't bring it up. He would go into fits when he was a boy any time his brother was brought up, and eventually convinced himself he didn't have a brother. The grief went away from him, so he never bothered to fix him so long as he stayed in the real world with everything else." "Thanks, Grandma," I told her, my mind spinning. "I love you. I'll come visit soon." After we said our goodbyes, I stood in the dark for a while, afraid to go back into the bedroom, even though I knew I needed to. With shaking hands and a racing heart, I made my way one more time down the hall and into the bedroom. I didn't feel the joy my father said he felt near the painting. Instead, I felt overwhelming dread. I swallowed hard and stepped forward to look at the painting. It was a carnival, but not the one my dad had described. The children didn't wear smiles, but masks of pain and horror. There weren't tigers and elephants, but nameless creatures with large maws filled with huge teeth. There wasn't popcorn and pretzels and cotton candy, but rotten vegetables and putrid cuts of meat in the hands of the carnival goers. There was a Ferris wheel though, and at the top, just as my father had said, sat a boy with a big Cheshire grin and baby blue pajamas. He wasn't alone though. Sitting next to him, smiling just as broadly, was my father, and beside them, hanging off the side of the Ferris wheel bucket as if trying to make a futile escape, was a woman with her hair tied back in a ponytail and looked exactly like the picture I'd seen on the news article about the missing woman. For a moment, I thought I might throw up. I hurried down the hall to the closet and pulled out the step stool. I positioned the stool in front of the painting and climbed up, needing to remove it from where it hung and turn its face to the wall so I didn't have to see it anymore. As I climbed up though, I thought I could smell, faintly at first, the scent of buttery popcorn. I positioned both hands on either side and leaned forward to lift it off the hook, but in doing so, I came face to face with the little boy on the Ferris wheel. His grin, so wonderfully innocent and joyful, made me happy, and I wanted him to be happy. I climbed back down and gave the painting another look. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. Everyone seemed so happy, and there are so many little hidden treasures to find.